33 years ago tonight, May 22nd, 1992. And it was quite a momentous occasion. And for me, like many of you, many thousands, many millions of you, a very, very bittersweet evening. And my God, I cannot believe 33 years ago. It's sort of really surreal, out of this world. Johnny Carson did his final Tonight Show, um, May 22nd, 1992. And I say that and um, hard to believe. And, it's been said a million times, maybe more than that. There was nobody like Johnny Carson. And today, there still is nobody like Johnny Carson. These alleged comedians, hosts, whatever they want to call themselves, are nowhere near the talent, the wisdom, the work prowess of one Johnny Carson. And even the final episode, which there were no guests, and I posted the video to which you can watch. It's only 16 minutes long, but it has the monologue and some other little interesting tidbits. But Carson, and I'm surprised, but in a way I'm not surprised. There hasn't been a movie about Johnny Carson. And, I told a couple of friends a few times ago, it would be a great actor to play Carson. And there's only one person who could do this, and that would be Tom Hanks, who I would think has got the appearance, he's got the creativity, the acting, obviously. And, it dawned on me, why hasn't there been a movie about Johnny Carson? And I've told this to people. Carson was so powerful, and even in death is so powerful, his estate, that in order to do a movie, you would have to get permission from the Johnny Carson estate, Carson Productions. And, he was real powerful in his heyday. Ask Joan Rivers. Of course, Joan Rivers is no longer with us, but on his darker side, apparently not a very happy man. And that's fine. And when I say that's fine, what I mean is when the lights came on, when the studio camera turned to you're on, Carson was the ultimate, penultimate entertainer, talk show host, interviewer, comedian. And I don't care about all the books, supposed gossip, that the guy was very subdued, was very shy, was very quiet, and apparently very downright a miserable person, much like Frank Sinatra, much like some great entertainers, artists who have very different sides of their life when the camera or whatever is off. It's like the line that, speaking of Sinatra, once said, look, about his life, all I owe anybody is the best performance that I can give. After that, my business is my business. And the thing with Carson, if you read all the Hollywood scuttlebutt, was that, yes, he was very shy, didn't have many friends. You would think somebody like that would, but he did not. He had a very dark side, a very vindictive side. But as I just indicated a little while ago, Carson to me was 1130. As a kid growing up in the 70s, I'll never forget this date, October 1977. I was down visiting my sister in LA, and I got to go watch The Tonight Show in Burbank and was able to see Johnny Carson and the stories about, oh, the set is so small you wouldn't recognize it and all that. But you know, I didn't think Carson get got his due. Just how magnificent, a thorough professional that he was, and there are nobody. There's no stars left today. There's no movie stars. Maybe Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, although Jack Nicholson has pretty much gone into the limelight and doesn't make public appearances anymore. Pardon me, folks. And that's the same thing with Johnny Carson. There's anybody for that matter, that is like Johnny Carson. And I, to me, even though I was a kid growing up in the 70s and the 80s and got my formative years, The Tonight Show was such an absolute appointment television situation because Carson not only was funny, but he knew about timing. He knew about that look. How many people remember the glance into the monitor with the eye and the turning of the head and interacting with Ed McMahon and Doc Severinsen and the orchestra and all that. And it was just a magnificent representation of somebody thoroughly capable of doing what he did and knowing full well timing and interviewing and being funny and not going crazy and acting like these idiots, these schmucks today. Like, my God, Jimmy Fallon, what a fraud. Colbert is just predictable. He's not that funny. And Kimmel is okay every now and then, but he uses his position as a kind of a political, as does Colbert. But they're just nothing. I'm even comparing them to Johnny Carson, be like comparing a Pinto with a Maserati. I had by the way, a Pinto growing up, driving it to high school. Good car, just bad shape, bad title for a car. But that's another story. But I posted this opinion today, and I want you to watch, if you haven't seen it, maybe in a while, the final episode where he just sits and talks to the audience and gets real emotional at the end. Sorry, folks. It was a time where we don't have many professionals and craftsmen and entertainers and, yes, out and out stars, television. We forget that he hosted many Oscars. For me, there were two Oscar hosts, Carson and Billy Crystal. Crystal in a less kind of a formidable way, more of a showbiz, Hollywood. Carson was just everything. That's why he hosted the Oscars, because he could do the Tonight Show type of monologue, be timely, have respect amongst the audience, which were mostly full of stars and movie stars and film people and all that. Johnny Carson was able to pull off the MC of the Oscars, namely because of the fact that he was a part of the Hollywood establishment and could do a job and be quite appreciated and respected by not only the audience in the theater, but of course, watching on ABC. Finally, this is the thing that makes me kind of reflect. Remember the amount of times that the other networks, they thought they could challenge Johnny Carson? Nobody could. They tried on Fox. They tried on CBS. ABC was the closest, and they didn't even have an entertainment show. They had Nightline. Remember that. Nobody could beat Johnny Carson. Mind you, again, this was before the internet and all that, but the guy had 20 million. That's a lot of eyes and ears. 20 million viewers. And I think we take for granted a guy like Carson. We just assume that he was here, there, and now, it's been not with us for a while, over 3 decades. But anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of watching the final monologue and reflecting back at a time when, God, 1992, 33 years ago already. It just goes too fast. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this clip and remember to contribute to my cause so I can continue to give you the Rich Lieberman Media Pulse. Thanks.